Good morning to the Chris Loft Conversation, and today we've got Tony Bonner. It's not the Skippy Tony Bonner. He was born in 1943. This is a local community gem, Tony Bonner, born in 1944 in Launceston. And Tony will tell his story, really interesting one. He lived on the streets from age 14 to 17. He spent time in juvenile care where he was abused and tortured. He has a great definition of the word no. He has a strong opinions on much of the wasted monies on government training for work. He has a great enthusiasm for the Hard Yakka program, and he's established a business, Fraser Coast Voice, a digital media here on the Fraser Coast for people to comment on and in. So we'll just let Tony tell his story in this conversation with Chris Loft. Okay, so today at Chris Loft Conversations we've got Tony Bonner. Now a lot of people will immediately jump to the Tony Bonner who was Skippy. I bet you've had that many times in your life.
Lots and lots of times. Second cousin, actually. I've met the man 3 or 4 times. Yes.
Learn how to do Skippy sound?
No. I know this might sound sick, but we ran out of food, so we had to live on kangaroo for a while.
Okay. So one of the criterias we've got is in this we tell the truth, or at least we don't tell a lie.
Sounds
and it's
good
right
to
up
me.
your alley, and
it's
mine
right
too.
up my alley.
So it's part of the criteria of anyone we have on the Chris Loft Conversation. So we like to get that nice and clear in these days of fake news and plenty of lies that come out from all sorts of people. So let's just start at the beginning. Where were you born? And let's go from there.
Wow, life history.
Yep.
Launceston, Tasmania, 1944.
Yep.
Attended, I'll keep it short,
No. We've got
attended
plenty of time.
primary school, punch bowl school, had to walk 7 miles each way. I got my first pair of boots when I was 9.
It's cold down there in Tassie.
Extremely. Progress from there.
How many kids in the family?
I had, there was 4 of us, 3 brothers and a sister, 1 elder brother. I was number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I was a bit of a scallywag. I didn't like school, even though I was very good at maths, excelled at maths. Yep. I had other jobs. Milk rounds, bread rounds. And the only activities I had were captain of the football team, the Aussie rules team, captain of the cricket team, won the premierships, and sort of went on from there. And then high school come, which was year 7 in Tasmania then. Yep. Only spent 1 term because I hated school. My father got me a job.
What did your dad do?
He was
Mum and Dad?
a technical representative with CIG, EMF, welding supplies.
Righto.
He used to teach at night school and what have you. Yep. Travelled all over Australia, actually. Mum was a house mum. Yep. The best person on earth. Yep. Okay, at high school I left. My dad got me a job at the company was called W. Person Sons. They were upholsterers, cabinet makers. I lasted 1 hour because I was in the office. I was going to be a trainee accountant, and I thought to myself, well, I left school because I didn't like having to sit behind a desk and do as I was told, so I left. My dad virtually never spoke to me ever since then. So from then on, I just podded around, done my own thing, always looking for opportunities, even at that silly age, but I done stupid things, and I can talk about it now openly. I went and lived on the streets for 12, 18 months, survived on my own, got into trouble.
So what age were you then? 12, 13?
14.
14, yep.
15, they eventually caught up with me. I stole a couple of cars, I can say it openly now. I was put into juvenile care for 2 years. the care that I received there was something you don't talk about, but it took me 46 years to be able to bring it out in the open.
Yeah.
The way we would treat as kids, bashings, rapes and all that, and this was on a daily basis. I escaped a couple of times, so we penalised for that, and it was torture.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I deserved to be punished, but not punished in that way. Now, after 46 years, from there on, once I got out of there, I sort of saw the light and thought, well, I'm going to change my life.
What age was that you got out?
16 and a half, 17.
Yep.
Living on the streets was hard. I used to box with a boxing troupe for 12 months, travelling around the shows. I used to get £3 a fight of £3, which is a lot.
Did you win most of them?
No, you're paid to lose. Unfortunately, fighting all these indigenous guys, the Sands and the Mowers and the Austins and what have you.
Right.
And it wasn't the life for me, and I eventually saw the light. I'm not a religious person because I called out for God every night for 2 years and he wasn't there to help me, so I sort of fended for myself. And then I decided I'd go to work. So I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I found work. I'd knock on doors and away I'd go from there. But I got married at 18, met a girl. Family was very wealthy, owned hotels and what have you, which opened the door. But where do I go from there? You do edit anyway, don't you, Jess? Got married, a big flash wedding and what have you, but after a short time we weren't compatible. We had a daughter, and a bit down the track, the wife then had whatever the woman has, and couldn't have any more children, so we adopted a son who's doing extremely well now, got a very big plumbing business in Brisbane. But we split up a bit later because Tony didn't want to stay at home all the time. He'd go out Friday nights to get a loaf of bread and a bottle of milk, and he'd come home Monday night. So I was a bit of a tiger. But work-wise, I wanted to be a painter, so I became a painter. They said, you haven't got a trade. I didn't do the trade, but I talked these people into saying, well, give me a go. And that's how it all started. And the reason why I liked painting was because you wouldn't be in the same place for a long time. 3 or 4 weeks and what have you. And
and then move on.
After a short time, I started my own business called TB Painting Services. Ended up with 14 people working for me.
This is all in Tassie?
All in Tassie. Had contracts with Camalco. I painted had all the maintenance painting on Bogue's Brewery hotels and a lot of big contracts, and we're very successful. Then I met my new wife, Chris, who we're still together now, 43 years now,
well done.
which is not too bad. One child between us. And Chris had 2 children, which I reared, and now we've got 5 children and 13 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren.
Well done. I won't ask you all their ages.
Sport, I stuck with sport. I was an A-grade golfer, very good at golf, played a lot of pennant golf, played a lot of Aussie rules, went over to Melbourne to have a run, but I told people I played first grade, but I didn't with Richmond. The bright lights brought me undone over there. This was called 6 o'clock closing then.
That's right.
Every Friday night you'd go to the pub at 6 o'clock, and where I lived in East Richmond, I worked with a cigarette company, J. Hunt and Company they were called, and all ex-Richmond players, so the bright lights were too much for me. Like you're a bit of a hero if you think they're going into VFL then, not AFL. So I had 2 years over there and then went back to Tassie and...
so how old were you
18
then?
when I was over in Melbourne.
Righto, so that was...
I was about 20 when I went back to Tassie. And kept on painting, but once I met Chris, my wife, we're having a lot of hassles with her ex and what have you, so we packed up, saw a solicitor and a doctor, and they said just pack up and head off.
Head north.
So we went to Alice Springs, drove to Alice Springs, all the way in a panel van, the 2 kids in the back of the panel van with a few homely belongings.
Well, the roads would have been dirt roads in those days.
No, it was bitumen.
Oh, yeah.
But extremely straight, I know that. Like in Tassie, you'd drive from Launceston to Hobart, you'd have to stay overnight. It was only 300 kilometres or something.
Yeah.
So we were doing 8-hour stints, and we got to Alice Springs. A brother lived there. He was fire chief over there, so we lived in a caravan for a while, got here in it. I was painting still, worked on the missions.
Yeah.
Made a few dollars, 6 months, but
it would have been an experience.
It was brilliant. Yeah, tell a lot of stories, but the government just splashed all this money into those areas there, and to me,
it's a lot of waste.
Well, it is waste too, because the indigenous, especially the real indigenous, live their way. Yeah. Okay, you support them, but they like to support themselves their way too. Yeah. Then we come back and called into Hervey Bay for the weekend with the caravan before we moved on. 3 years later, we left Hervey Bay.
All right.
Chris and I got married there under a poinsettia tree. Yeah. Cost $15 for the celebrant. Okay.
So that was and so you're 3 years in the bay.
3 years in the bay. I was still painting then.
Still painting, yeah.
Painting for a while. I done the first spec home for A.V. Jennings. Oh, yeah. I got the job there and done a few high schools, worked with a couple of contractors. And
so
then
in those days, roughly that was early 70s, was it? Or thereabouts?
Yeah, I guess it would have been, yeah.
Yeah, so Hervey Bay was just 6,000 odd people?
Well, we rented a house in the Esplanade at Urangan and Torquay, right in the waterfront. We could have got quarter acre, could have got for 55,000. Yeah. It is now a resort, so we sort of missed out there a bit.
Yep.
So from then we moved to Bribie Island, where Chris's parents lived. In the meantime, I'd given up painting, and a chap took me under his wing, debt collecting. Oh. Yeah, my bay securities, and I was doing a bit of security work and what have you. And then we were debt collecting, and that turned me into sales because I began selling the debts to business and what have you, collecting their debts. Yeah. So we went from there, and I thought, sales, I like this. So when we left Hervey Bay to Bribie Island, which we spent 16 years there, I was in sales. I went to real estate, worked for Ray White, and then I started to open my eyes and see, well, why am I making all this money for other people when I can be making it for myself? Yep. So I started just doing my own thing. In real estate, I could see a need for another product which would make the real estate look good, and plus the vendors who were buying. Yep. And same for the rentals. So I created Homeowners Logbook and Teledex, which means you got a book where new homer come in, you've got a little booklet of all the affiliated services you need, the plumbers, the accountant, the electrician and what have you, who deal with that real estate agent because they recommend them. Very successful. I travelled all around Queensland and what have you with it. Then I brought in other people working commission only, but the sad part there was that they started their own. And that was the end of that. Then still playing A-grade golf, I thought, well, I had a buggy. It was called the Pilgrim buggy, which had a big V on the bottom of it, but never had a seat. And I thought, well, nobody's ever thought to put a seat on this damn thing. So, okay, I a friend of mine who's was an ex-carpenter. We got some aluminium and bend and twist and what have you. This will fit. I found an upholsterer and we put a seat on it. So then I registered the name Bondo Golf Seat. His name was John Dodge. Bondo Golf Seat. And I thought, now I'm going to go around all the pro shops with this now. And lo and behold, going like a house on fire, doing a trip every month. down to Coffs Harbour, way up past Bundaberg to all the pro shops. I'd taken 20.
What would they sell for, roughly?
$30 odd.
Yep.
It was only costing me $7.
Yep.
So I was making $25 every unit. And I thought, this is excellent.
Yep.
Then after about 9 months, I get a call from Dunlop Slazenger in Brisbane. We'd like to have a talk with you. So, yeah, okay. So I go in and see them. They've got the seat sitting on their table, on their desk. He said, we want to market this. And I laughed at them.
Yeah.
And he said, no, we want it. And okay, I said, no. He said, we'll give you 50 cents a unit. But I couldn't comprehend that. I didn't see the big picture. Because the next time I went around, all the pro shops said, no, we can't stock it anymore. Otherwise, we can't stock all Dunlop products, which is from balls to everything.
Yep.
But unbeknownst to me, I'd done a bit of homework. There was 600,000 of these buggies selling every year. So 600,000 times 50 cents
would have been good.
Yeah, for doing nothing.
Yeah.
So thus I lost that. And I just come up with other ideas. I invented other things, tried other things. And unemployment. I thought, well, once I got to, no, that's right, my wife and I are still on Bribey. I created a newspaper. I went through the NE scheme, the New Enterprise Incentive Scheme, my wife and I. The newspaper was called Job Finder, all about employment, training and education, which you're probably aware of. Very successful, but all of a sudden I had all the pollies that used to come to the Caboolture and what have you. They were all involved. Mal Bruff, when he tried to into politics, he wanted Job Finder with him on the hustings, on his travels. And Job Finder had a big part of getting him elected. Then all of a sudden the ex-mayor, who owned most of the real estate, the local FM radio station, he wanted a part of it, and he offered us a partnership and what have you, which we said yes, we accepted. Set us up in an office in Caboolture, Deception Bay. We still had the one on Bribey Island, but after a time, after about 9 years, of which the wife and I just worked 24/7, 7 days a week, come to the head where he said, I'm closing it down. Why? He said, well, I own the damn thing. We didn't know. He switched companies and all that sort of thing. So righto. We lost everything. Quite a lot of money, believe me, a lot of money. And a lot of hard work. But that didn't deter us, so we got sick of Bribey Island, so we moved to the Gold Coast. And then I got a job straight away, straight into the job networks. Talked my way into it. I knew the industry from the outside. I wanted to get in on the inside. So first interview I went to was Team Employment in Ipswich. The job networks were just being created then. And they said, you haven't got this qualification, you haven't got this. I said, I know, but I said, I know how it works. And the time I finished talking with 4 of the bosses, I said, time I get back to the Gold Coast, I said, I expect a phone call and you want me to start Monday. And sure enough, I got a phone call. So I started, the offices at Broadbeach were up in a penthouse suite, and right in the mall at Broadbeach, and it was only a short walk to work for me, which was good. So that was the start of it. So door knocking.
So roughly about when was that?
What year? Blimey, Teddy, 20 years ago.
Yeah, righto.
20 years ago. So marketing was my role, finding work and assisting job seekers, because I've been on all sides of the fence there. Talking to business was the key to finding the jobs. So I would do 50.
Talking to businesses.
Talking to business.
Ask the businessman, what is he looking for?
Exactly.
It's not rocket science.
The time I finished, a few incidents came up because the job network scene was very competitive. I would go to Burleigh, for instance, and do all the industrial estate, and I'm following 2 gorgeous-looking girls dressed in black and miniskirts going in before me. And I thought, who the dickens are these? because the time I walked in after, they say, oh, we've just had the girls from Serena Russo in here looking for work for people. Mm-hmm. Oh, is that right? And then I was following them and having no success, but I worked out 5 days a week, 55 calls a day, I would get 3% actual jobs on the spot. But
yeah, that's a lot of calls.
Yeah, a lot of calls, but...
and that's where you've got that expression, NO. When someone says no to you, it's like water off a duck's back.
No's next opportunity to me.
It's next opportunity. I love it.
The door you don't knock is the door you're going to get a job at. That's why I always looked at it, because... and I say that to job seekers still to this day. Look at no as your main focus, because it means your next opportunity. The door you don't knock, that's the one that's going to say yes. But all these doors that I knocked and got the no's, like Serena Russo was getting jobs, but their big mistake was they never went back. Yeah. And I thought, no, I've got to keep going back. So I would saturate that area for a period of 3 to 6 months. Every week I would go back. By that time, you, the employer, hi Tony, we're on a first name basis, and away we go. Yep. And every time, after 6 months of all those doors, I was running about 35%. Yep. And I didn't have to rush and get details. I knew everything about that business. Yep. They would ring, Tony, we've got a job, we need such and such. Yep. What are you looking for? So, okay, I worked on the Gold Coast for 13 years, Ballina for 1 year. We moved to Ballina for 1 year. My wife was going to take over a kebab franchise, but it didn't work out. Mm. Then we moved to Maryborough, and I went straight back into the job networks too, still doing the same thing.
So roughly when did you get back here? When did you get here?
11 years ago.
Righto. Yep.
I worked with Wesley Employment. They lost the tender, and then I went to Epic Employment. And 69 years of age, I decided to leave because the system just got worse and worse and worse. But in all the network job active agencies, I still to this day would like to be able to show people how, I guess, especially the job seekers, to be able to get out there and get a bit of self-esteem, and that's what it's all about. Yep. The system today tells you, all these agencies, you've got to have a resume, you've got to get out, you've got to knock on the door and give the employee a resume. You can knock on any employer's business, and especially the ones that attract the young ones, like JB Hi-Fi and all those places, they'll have 5,000 of them under the counter, so to speak. Mm. They don't even look at them. The biggest majority throw them away. Yep. So I train or teach or try to talk to job seekers. I just recently had a young bloke who was at Hard Yakka, Operation Hard Yakka, where I mentor out there. I volunteer helping the youth that are going off the rails.
Just let's get into, just touch on that Hard Yakka one. That's Bob Davis.
Bob Davis,
and Bob's been doing that. Just to describe that program that Bob is still doing. Yep.
It's still going, yes. It's military style. It's all about, the key criteria is attitude. Yeah. That is the main respect. Respect is the key criteria, because these young kids are heading to juvie, and believe me, I've been there and I talk to the kids. They're shorter programs now. We had a government program for 2 years. Yep. Government changed hands, but the ALP here, our state member, didn't want to know a thing about it.
This is helping juveniles?
Yes.
Yeah, who are kids on the verge of going into the already overcrowded prisons.
Yes.
And yep.
From all ages, and very successful.
Yep.
Very successful. Yep. And the reason I was successful with the young ones is I took time out to listen. Yeah. The young kids would put up a barrier the first 2 or 3 days. They had to call us sir, which was respect. Yep. But after a week, they got to trust me. So they'd talk to me. So I'd listen, so we help one another. So we'd walk down that path together. And the same in the job networks. If you listen to the job seekers, you can help them. Instead of saying, you've got to do this, you've got to do that.
So those, because you've travelled that path in your own life, you've got a real story to tell these kids, and they're astute enough to be able to pick a dud from a real one.
Exactly. Very true.
And so they connect with your real story, and that's how there's that reality and that truth of your story mixes with theirs, and it hopefully saves them a lot of unnecessary pain in their young lives. Because many of them, I know I've chatted with a number of them as well, have come from horrific pasts.
That's right.
And it's so they've started off with an unfortunate family situation generally, and it just gets and decays from worse and worse from there.
Exactly, and a lot of it comes from the home environment, because with the government program, I would follow up, mentoring, call to the home, make sure the young ones are on the right path. But a lot of the home environment, we could understand why they were like they are. The parents had to me, should have been in the program as well. And unfortunately, a lot of the kids fell back through those same cracks again, but about 75-80% all changed. And still to this day, on Facebook, I've got all these kids still on Facebook.
That's good.
Still calling me Sir Tony. Got jobs, family. Very exciting. One thing with my Tasmanian affair was, after 46 years, I carried guilt all the time, because every day we were told we were bad. But after 46 years here in Queensland, Tasmanian government located me. There was a Royal Commission about what happened to us.
Of abuse in...
At the Ashley Home for Boys, And I got a big apology of 16 months. I was still on the Gold Coast then. I was under a psychologist. Most beautiful lady I've ever met, because I would cry. I still break down. PTSD, they call it now. She would put the key in the door, and I had to learn how to open it. And she made me see the lights to remove that guilt. I knew I had to be punished for what I'd done, but I carried it 46 years and never told anyone. My parents never knew, because I went off the face of the earth for a couple of years. Chris, my wife, never knew until then, and she could never work out why I kept breaking down. If I'd seen TV, kids getting hurt or something, I'd just break down. So then the Royal Commission must have finished. I got a big letter from the Tasmanian Premier, big apology. They give me a cheque. Thank you very much. We're sorry for what we've done to you. So that's what I don't want to see happen to these kids. But unfortunately, the government don't look at it that way. With what's happening at Yakka, Bob has got parents calling all the time, but it's a cost factor now. Whereas there's no support from the government, the parents can't afford it. And Bob breaks every rule he can to get down as low as he can, but they can't survive. Pardon me. Can't survive, so it's getting a lot lighter now as far as participants in it. Lots of inquiries, but the parents just haven't got that money. The cost factor. But employment.
Sorry, I was just going to say, most parents in that situation would come from a low incomes. And then I know from some of the lads that I've met, some of the parents were from very well-to-do.
Very much so.
They'd sort of, looking back, probably spoil the kids with buying love through buying things rather than time.
And that's right. They had everything they needed, the kids, but never had the love.
And love is time.
Very much so. Well, this day and age, the kids go into your room and play on your Xbox or what have you.
Yeah,
and that's happening all the time. You've only got to walk down the streets. Kids, just not kids, everyone's on a mobile or something.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yep.
I live next door to people who are on benefits, who are quite able to work and what have you. You never see the kids outside playing.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
Strange. Never climb a tree or anything. That's sad. Very sad. Now, employment, I worked here, I done a bit of 3 months with the company here, not-for-profit training company. I was to market these people, but at the end of the day, the jobs weren't there.
Yep.
Number one, it was just a money-making thing, and that's half the problem with these training organisations. To me, if it's not needs-based, why do it? Yep. I've always said what I'd love to be able to do at my age now is set up job shops, and people are saying, what the diggins are job shops? It's for the unemployed. It's their shop. It belongs to them. Instead of work for the dole, you work for welfare. How does that work? It's got to be in a not-for-profit place. No, why put them in there working behind the counter or playing around out the back doing something that's negative? Okay, it's helping that organisation, but it's not helping that individual. There's no self-esteem there.
No, that's it.
Why can't it go to profit organisations? They can come into your business, work for welfare, 2 hours a day or 4 hours, 20 hours a week.
Yep.
And at the end of the week you give them $40 or $50. That goes on their unemployment benefit. Work for welfare.
Yep.
Your self-esteem is so much higher, and that employer is not going to exploit you. Whereas what the government's doing now, every employer, I'll give you an instance here in Maryborough. Our state have put a program out of where every employer's eligible for 10,000 to take somebody on. That's great. They're quoting over 3,000 have been put into work here. Who? Ask who. We've seen 2 places. I know one company that's put on 3 in the last 12, 14 months because that's 30,000. They can't afford to employ them. They told me personally, we can't afford to employ them, but it gives us a bit of time off. Well, that's great. But you're exploiting it, because I know one of them is his wife's running the place herself with one of these subsidised people, and he's gone and got a full-time job. So they're doing quite nicely now.
Yeah.
To me, that's exploitation. The kids today, if they listened, they're not allowed, how can I say it? They're not heard.
Yep.
They've all got a beef, as we all know.
Yep.
But if you listen to them, you can help them. And that's the idea of a job shop. It's theirs, it belongs to them. Ideas, the big whiteboard, they help one another. Get out on the road. Like when I had Job Finder, I'll go back to Job Finder.
Yep.
I got a sponsor. It was the Edamogga pub, Lindsay Cooper.
Yep.
2,500 he gave me for polo shirts. Job Finder, and we had Edamogga pub on the sleeves and what have you. And I had a group of 6, 7 young blokes all the time out on the road with me, door knocking, selling ads. Social Security then, Department of Social Security, approved everything of these young ones because they earned a bit of commission, which was all approved. So we'd be out on the road knocking doors, looking for advertising, which was very successful, all up the Sunshine Coast, everywhere. Now what happened then, CES then really complained about us. They said, you're out there taking our jobs from us. No, we're not. We're just out there selling ads. Now the kids, unbeknownst to them, the 17, 18-year-olds, unbeknownst to them, were looking for work. Because the employers then, they say, this young Wes that calls in here every month confirming the ad's going to run again or he wants it updated. He's a good cut of a young man. He's looking for work, isn't he?
Yep.
Yes, that he is.
Yeah.
We were placing him into work. That was the idea of it. Not just to build the paper up in revenue for advertising, was these boys getting jobs. Very successful.
Yeah.
Just different avenues. And this is the idea of job shops and work for welfare too. Same deal. Yep. Nobody will look at it that.
And it's relatively low cost versus
a
lot of the, I've seen a lot of the courses that are done do not lead to jobs. A lot of government-sponsored courses through TAFEs, and even in the university these days, I think there's a lot of courses that people are spending a lot of money on, and government is, in keeping these courses afloat and the people who are taking the courses, but it doesn't lead to a job. That's we need to get back to asking the employers. So generally speaking, what do employers look for? They're not looking for a Rhodes Scholar. I've always said it's attitude.
99%.
Yeah, it's attitude. So it's the person who comes to the front counter of that business and asks and is persistent in it, and is polite, is well dressed, dressed for the part of that job. Yeah.
That's what
that's attitude.
The key criteria, and that's the key to your surveys of door knocking. Telephones and forget it. Yeah. In the whole 20 years, I think I delivered 3 resumes to employers.
I've never seen a bad resume.
You never will.
No.
All honest, trustworthy and what have you. But what I would always, and I still tell the young ones, I've just had one young fella now here in Maryborough. Where do you want to work? I want to work there. He wants to do mechanics. Okay, give me a list of 5 places. Yep. Treetops, Timber City, Craig Murchie and a couple of others. Okay, I said, if I can open the door for you, will you go and see them? No, I said, I'll go back the other way. That's where you want to go? Right. I said, this is what you go and do. Pick the 5 places which you've done. No matter what, you can get there, whether it's hail, rain or shine, you can get there. You're never going to be late, you can always get there. Right. Now you go to these employers and ask them what they're looking for. When they look to employ, you let them know that you're looking to get back into work. Always say look and get back into work. They will tell you, they'll respect you for that. Okay, so at the time you finish 5 of them, you've got no's because you don't want a yes. You're not asking for a job, you're asking for advice. And they respect you for that. Then I'll say to you at the end of it, what'd you learn from that? Well, I feel great. They didn't say I had to do this and have to do that like the job agencies told me. Yeah, but you're missing the big thing. What's that? That door, mate, it is still open. You can go back there tomorrow with your resume and see Mr. or Mrs. such and such. Yeah, okay. And what happens after that? The employer respects you, number one. They've got your resume, it stays on file. If something comes up, they're going to ring you, but next week, you're back there again. Hi, Mr. Loft. Yeah.
So it's building a relationship.
Exactly.
With those people. It's respectful.
Yes.
And persistent.
Yep.
And that's what an employer is looking for in the qualities of a future staff member.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because it's not a lot of joy for people in business to employ people these days. It needs to be. You can't make the wrong mistake because there's many that are out there who have got a victim mentality.
Yes.
Rather than just push and tough it through.
Exactly.
Yeah, and just holding those qualities within their life. Yeah, I think so. Within the job market, sort of around in town like this, or in the region here, word of mouth gets what percent of jobs do you think? So young ones who are looking for work.
Not a lot.
No.
Very minimal. Very minimal. It's money that gets the jobs here. It's all the networks. Well, disability employment's very big here. since the NDIS, there's so many in the disability sector and what have you, and it's all money. And it's all about money. The stories I could tell of what I had to do just here, not let alone the Gold Coast. I could buy cars for job seekers on the Gold Coast.
Goodness
me. No problems. Give the employers $2,000 sets of golf clubs and what have you. It was all bribery all the way through, and it still is.
In a different form.
And that's what irks me with training organisations. Not all, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to name the shonks or the good ones. But it's all about dollars, because to me the training has to be needs-based. If you get out and go to the marketplace and find out what the needs are, let's say I might come up with 50 calls to mechanics, 6 definitely want apprentices. Right, so you've created the needs, so you find the right genuine young ones that want an apprenticeship in that field, so therefore the training is needed. And no matter what field it is, but the kids end up doing a trade and their whole life changes, and there's so many want to do it, but there's so many not listening to them. The system tells you you've got to do this, otherwise you cut your dole and what have you, and a lot of these young ones, I'll say, well, there's a job going there. How much an hour? $15. I wouldn't work for $15 an hour. Mate, you're on $3.70 an hour now. So you add it all up. I didn't look at it that way. Well, work it out, and your attitude changes, number one. And that's half the battle, because, as I say, 99% of employers, it's in attitude.
So it's sort of, so in your role now as a retired type of person, you're still very active in that space. So young ones are somehow finding you and still inquiring of you, and because of the reputation you've had here. So if young ones are looking for work, you're happy for them to contact you?
Always, always. The body slows down, but the mind doesn't. So,
that's right.
You know, I'd like to be out there full time, just knocking on doors, and which I do sometimes. I'll be in the bond. I've got to get back out there and have a chat again to employers. And it's very hard to spread the word. The local newspaper, I've contacted the editor and said, put a proposal, all voluntary, of course. I said I could probably generate another 4 pages on a permanent basis in your paper to your benefit, but it's going to help make people more aware and what have you, instead of the way the system's structured now. But so
not at this stage. So now you've also got the Fraser Coast Voice.
That's just started.
So what is that? Just explain that.
It's a little bit political. It's down to earth. The name of the Voice it belongs to the Fraser Coast, but it's very hard to get all concerned in there. But it's freedom of speech. And all local content and what have you. So whatever's going on that needs to be talked about, hopefully that's what we're putting there. But we've got a few good people involved and unearthing a lot of things that people aren't aware of, where what they read, they believe, and we sort of try and change that view a bit.
There has.
And we've got to be very careful of defamation laws and what have you, because we've experienced that already.
So issues like locally here, I'd say, I'll throw one in, as the sports precinct, which is a very expensive project that the council has thrown a lot of money at, and and it sort of, to me, it started off as a bad project, and hopefully at some stage in the future it might turn into a good project. But some of the facts that have been thrown around about that project and the reasons why it got launched, I think there's a lot more that needs to be surfaced. So things like your paper, if people just like your Fraser Coast Voice, is those are the sorts of things, the discussions.
Yes, very much so. Council content, state, and not so much federal because we're trying to keep things local.
Yeah.
The precinct, well, my business plan wasn't that great, but from what I can see, a business plan wasn't submitted the way it should have been. I had a friend talk to me the other day, took a young one down there for soccer. Parking was atrocious. The ground, you could sink in it and what have you. And he said, if it wasn't for the young one, I'd never go back there again. Yeah. Atrocious. Every aspect of it. To me, it's a white elephant because you've got to look at the region. We're a retirement region in the Hervey Bay region and what have you. So young ones have to have an outlet, but I thought they had plenty anyway down there. Yeah. Big events, you might get a reserve team from a major team, come up and have a trial run or what have you, draw 5,000 or 6,000 people, if that, 10,000, great. But who pays for the upkeep of these places? It's got to run into a lot of money per annum. So, and to me, it's the poor old ratepayer. They're footing the bill all the time.
Yep. That's where it comes from.
Of course.
It's easy to spend other people's money. So just as we sort of come to a bit of a close, so your future is continuing to work the Fraser Coast Boys.
Very much so.
Continue to mentor young ones.
Yep.
And I'll call them at-risk young ones, or any young ones really.
Any young ones.
But you've got an empathy with those at-risk lads.
Yeah, well, you've got to teach them, not teach them, let them believe in themselves.
Yeah.
That's taken away from them because that's the way society is today. If you can let them believe in themselves, they'll start to do things for themselves. The right things.
Yeah. So can I just step way back to when you only did that? So Dad got you a job.
Yeah, 1 hour.
And then you lasted 1 hour.
Or 2, actually. As soon as Smoko come, I took off.
So Dad had sort of used his connections to get his son a job.
Yes.
And then the son basically gave him the see you later.
That's why I left school.
Yeah.
You couldn't leave school till you were 15, but I left at 14, so I got into trouble for that.
So that was a cut in the relationship there. Did you ever get back to your dad before he died?
Yeah, well, it was strange when Dad passed away because when I sold real estate in Hervey Bay too, E.G. Turner actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and...
is that Ned Turner?
Yeah.
Ned's still around.
Surely.
Yeah.
His mum used to work in the office.
Yeah, he was a goer.
Yeah. And I sold Mum and Dad a house from Tassie. They come up and lived in Hervey Bay. Right. Sold their friends a house. They came up from Tassie too. I was quite good at it. And to me a house was, you're only a tour guide. So you can make a lot of money out of it, but you're a tour guide. So I could only see one way of making money properly, especially when we went work with Ray White and Bribey Island, was auctions.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I focused on auctions, which guaranteed me an income every week. So auction every week, and I'd make a sale every week. So I didn't have to drive people around too much. The auction was there; they had to come to me. So it didn't take.
Yeah, the real estate moves, up and down. As the economy. Well, it's a driver of the economy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember years ago I used to see, when the economy's slow, there's more auctions.
Yes, of course.
And because of that reason. Yeah.
Yeah. So my school days and Dad days, Dad and I got close towards the end.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Good. At the very end when he was passing away. Yeah.
All right. Well, I reckon that's really interesting.
That's part thereof. There's so much more little stuff.
Well, anyone they can contact you, and you've got the time now to chat a bit more about those things and the things that are on your heart to be able to share with with others.
Well, we need change, and it's the big boys at the top and big boys and girls at the top. They feather their own nest, and to me, we're just pawns, little pawns. That's the part that upsets me. In my eyes, everybody's an equal. Okay, some have had good breaks, some have had bad breaks, and that's the way the system works. But the employment industry in particular, to me, and I'll say it open, I could write a book on the rorts. Just millions and millions of dollars. I'd have to go out and bribe employers and what have you, and tell lies virtually, and that wasn't good.
No. Well, those are the days as we're cutting through into if people will just tell the truth.
Well, it'd be good if they would, because you have a look at the system now. All the employment figures, we're 5.2%. It's all concocted stuff. Work for the dole is fully employed. 2 hours work is fully employed. The figures are so far out. And here in the Fraser Coast, the unemployment is extreme. But it can change. It can change, but you've got to get both parties on side, the unemployed and the business sector. But they're not doing that.
No. The business sector drives the economy. You know, it's not government welfare programs.
No.
That's just a stopgap.
That's it.
It's prosperous businesses, and if government sort of moves out of the way and lets business be business, that's how everyone prospers.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
All right. Well, it's been a great joy talking with you, and I look forward to more conversations.
Thanks very much, Chris.
Good on you. You have a great day today.
And you too.
Thanks.